Discover the incredible talent of a blind black girl, a famous pianist's surprising revelation. Zaria sat at the worn keys of her grandmother's piano, fingers trembling. Her heart raced in rhythm to the melodies she played, but beneath each note lay an undercurrent of uncertainty. Would her eyes ever see the audience that had gathered around her? Freedom felt distant, snatched away by societal prejudices that whispered in the shadows, a blind girl? A black girl? What could she possibly achieve? Music poured from her soul, yet she feared it might not be enough. Each sweet note felt like a fragile dream teetering on the brink of doubt. Her classmates, with their giggles and sideways glances, often framed her as a curiosity, an illusion of a girl playing a grand piano while blind. Zaria especially felt the weight of approval she needed from those who could see, their skepticism forming an invisible shroud around her ambition. But Grandma always reminded her that hard work could conquer any obstacle, and her stories of resilience became Zaria's anchor. Yet, as the spring talent show approached, those stories felt doubted by many. "Can you really do this, Zaria?" A classmate's taunt echoed loudly in her mind. Racing thoughts mixed with her determination. The talent show could be her moment, a chance to unleash her spirit on stage, but what if it only reinforced the doubts planted by others? Tears edged her eyes as she pondered the risks and rewards of baring her soul for the world to hear. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With moments of joy came spirals of anxiety. Can I measure up? Can I fight against the barrier of judgment? It clawed at her insides, a gnawing fear she couldn't silence. In her quiet practice sessions, the cadence of her fingers strumming the keys felt more like a formidable enemy than a friend. Each sharp note pinned her deeper into the conflict within, a testament to her hopes and the weight of her reality. The talent show arrived with buzzing anticipation. Zaria's stomach twisted in on itself as she stood backstage, clenching her fists until her nails dug into her palms. The audience murmured curiously. Did they perceive her potential or merely her limitation? Just moments from stepping on stage, her grandmother's voice returned to her, a soothing balm against the chaos. But beneath that calm facade lay a peaking angst. Will you take the stage, Zaria? Will you embrace your gift? A haunting question hung in the air, pressing against her heart. She could feel the heaviness of expectations, the responsibility of being a beacon of inspiration, yet all she truly desired was to play freely. As the curtain began to rise, a shocking revelation struck like a bolt of lightning. Her grandmother had once kept a dream like Zaria's buried deep inside. What secret lay beneath layers of hope and hidden sacrifices? Just as Zaria readied herself to step into the light, her world shifted, leaving her teetering on the edge of revelation, a storm brewing within her. Would she release her fears, or would they swallow her whole? As the curtain rose, Zaria felt the weight of the world descend on her. The glare of the lights washed over her, enveloping her in a heat that mingled with her fear. The audience's murmurs quieted, leaving behind a taut silence that pressed against her chest. In that delicate moment, time seemed to stretch infinitely, challenging her to confront not just the crowd, but also the doubts roaring in her mind. Take a deep breath, she whispered to herself, grounding her racing heartbeat. Each sympathetic, yet probing, gaze echoed the prejudices she wished to shatter. With trembling fingers resting against the cool keys, a small swell of determination cut through the storm of anxiety. This was not just about performance, it was about unveiling the strength she had hidden within, courage that sprouted from her grandmother's tales of resilience and sacrifice. As she began to play, each note spilled forth like a cascade of liberation, weaving melodies that emanated from the depths of her spirit. The piano's voice was both a reflection of her struggles and a celebration of her identity. The music enveloped the audience, they leaned forward, drawn by the unexpected depth of emotion she conveyed. In those sacred moments, doubt began to dissolve. She was no longer just the blind girl, but a vessel of pure expression. But as the cheers began to rise, a flicker of apprehension returned. Would this moment validate her, or would it simply highlight the barriers that still plagued her? The rush of applause felt both empowering and overwhelming. She was acutely aware of the glances from classmates who had once mocked her potential. Had she finally proved them wrong, or would they dismiss her as an anomaly? Connection to her grandmother's hidden dreams ignited a fire within her heart. She tapped into that unknowable depth, seeking courage not just for herself but for the lost aspirations of others, particularly those sidelined by societal expectations. With every keystroke, she unleashed a power she never realized she possessed, one that whispered to the fears that held her back. Backstage, Zaria's grandmother watched, tears gleaming in her eyes, reflecting the unspoken dreams she once dreamed. Each note Zaria played felt like a conversation across generations, a whisper of purpose and a promise of extraordinary possibilities. A swell of bittersweet pride filled her heart, but alongside it lay a concerning thought: had she ever told Zaria of her unfulfilled ambitions? For the first time in a long while, Zaria felt the shadows lift. The stage was no longer a battlefield of judgment but a canvas for her artistic spirit. She played on, each note intertwining with the next, creating a tapestry of sound that resonated with a newfound strength. As the final crescendo reverberated, Zaria opened her eyes, and though she could not see the audience, she felt their energy, a roar of acceptance, recognition of talent far beyond her circumstances. But immersed in joy, a troubling realization dawned: if she could channel her grandmother's unspoken dreams, what might those dreams entail? What if they were laced with fears of her own? She exited the stage with raw exhilaration, heart racing from the performance and the questions that loomed ahead. In the aftermath of applause, she sought her grandmother, feeling an unshakable urge to unravel the mystery that swirled around their lives. "Grandma," she asked, breathlessly, "what dreams did you have that you never chased? What part of you remains unplayed?" As she uttered those words, she realized this journey was only just beginning, leading to revelations that could change both their lives forever. Would they unlock the door to dreams long buried, or find a shadow that might eclipse their passions? Zaria stood backstage, the raucous applause still echoing in her mind, a haunting mix of triumph and uncertainty. As she embraced her grandmother, she felt a connection that surged deeper than their shared blood, a testament to the sacrifices and dreams woven silently between them. Yet, the question she posed lingered thick in the air, demanding a revelation. "Let us step outside for a moment," her grandmother suggested, her voice trembling with the weight of unspoken stories. They moved to an unobtrusive corner, the cacophony of the event fading slightly, yet the tension between them intensified. Zaria's heart hammered in her chest, anticipation coiling tightly within. "Zaria," her grandmother began, her fingers interlacing, seeking comfort in the familiar gesture, "I never thought I'd share these dreams, not because I didn't want to, but because I feared they would weigh you down." A flicker of vulnerability crossed her grandmother's face, mirroring the burden of unfulfilled aspirations. Zaria took a steadying breath, her mind racing. What dreams? She felt a surge of eagerness, an urge to peel away layers of her grandmother's silence, to uncover the roots of their intertwined destinies. "What did you want?" Zaria pressed, excitement battling with apprehension. "What part of you did you leave behind?" Her grandmother hesitated, lost in memories of her own youth, a time when music breathed life into her dreams, when she was not merely a caretaker but an artist in her own right. "I wanted to perform," she confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "I was a classical pianist, too, before life pulled me in a different direction. My dreams vanished when I had to raise a family, and I never thought about them again until I heard you play tonight." Zaria's mind swirled with the revelation, a torrent of questions colliding. How could she chase her dreams knowing her grandmother had walked a similar path, only to stumble into shadows? Words buzzed in her throat, battles of her own fears rising to the surface. "But what if I fail?" she whispered, vulnerability creeping into her tone. That fear had haunted her long before she set foot on stage. Her grandmother's gaze pierced through the uncertainty. Failure can be a step, not a wall. You have a chance to fulfill the dreams I left behind, the dreams I realized I wanted to pass to you. I want you to succeed not just for yourself, but for us both. You have the gift to break barriers, don't let fear chain you. For the first time, Zaria felt the weight of her grandmother's sacrifices transform into a mantle of responsibility. She identified not only the depth of her own potential but the weight of unfulfilled ambitions that spanned generations. The pressure was immense, yet exhilarating. She breathed in the scent of wood and varnish, every inch of her eager to translate this moment into action, into something tangible. Then I'll chase them, Zaria declared, her voice strengthening. Not just for me, but for you, too. But just as resolution blossomed within her, a seed of doubt intertwined with determination. What if her pursuit ignited a longing in her grandmother? What if, in the chase, they forged a path leading to hidden despair rather than fulfilled dreams? Those questions throbbed in her mind like a metronome, threatening to disrupt the rhythm of her newfound purpose. The lingering urgency forced Zaria to navigate a complexity she had yet to grasp, an intersection between her ambition and her grandmother's buried desires. Can I truly carry both? She questioned silently, the fear of entrapment clashing with her resolve. Unbeknownst to her, the answer to this dilemma whirled in the currents of their relationship, rooted in shared stories, sacrifices, and dreams still waiting to be ignited. The air crackled with potential as Zaria faced her grandmother, her heart racing with the conflict of what was next. Together, we'll explore, she asserted, igniting the darkness with flickers of hope. But as they stood there, a figure appeared in the distance, a shadow from Zaria's past she hoped would remain buried. The confrontation loomed closer, a painful reminder of her journey and the obstacles yet to come. What if this encounter challenged everything she was stepping into? As the figure drew nearer, Zaria's heart sank, memories surging through her like a tidal wave. It was Elena, a former classmate who once stood at the pinnacle of their school's hierarchy, an unwelcome reminder of Zaria's past insecurities. They hadn't spoken since she left school, and Zaria doubted that time had softened Elena's sharp edges. She could almost feel the weight of the expectations tugging at her, testing her newfound commitment to her dreams. Zaria, Elena said, her tone laced with feigned sweetness. I heard you play tonight. Quite the performance. Thanks, Zaria replied, cautious, each word carefully measured. Elena stepped closer, her eyes glinting with something Zaria recognized all too well, jealousy masked as pity. Got quite the talent, haven't you? I'm curious, though, did you ever think you'd actually make it? You always did put yourself out there, despite. Despite what? Zaria's breath caught. Despite her struggles, despite her not fitting in perfectly like Elena. The half-hearted compliment struck at her insecurities. It was easy to feel small when others were intent on diminishing her light. Anyway, Elena continued, her voice sweet as syrup, I hope you remember who you're competing against. Not everyone is going to cheer you on. Zaria's fists clenched at her sides, an instinct to retaliate rising within her. But she held her ground, the support from her grandmother reinforcing her resolve. I'm not here to compete with anyone. I'm simply pursuing my passion. Elena replied with a laugh, but it lacked humor. Good luck with that, then, she said, turning on her heel. I'll be watching. Wouldn't want you to trip up again. As the confrontation faded into the background, Zaria felt a rush of adrenaline fueled by the bitterness of the exchange. Doubt and determination wove tightly together, igniting a fierce rebellion within. They both shared a stage in a way, Elena, a reflection of Zaria's fear of failure and a constant reminder of her own insecurities. Turning back to her grandmother, Zaria stared into the kind eyes that had seen her struggle, the eyes that held dreams of their own. She always knew how to push my buttons, Zaria admitted, each word laced with trepidation, acknowledging how much those feelings still affected her. We all have our reminders, her grandmother replied softly. It's how we choose to respond that shapes us. That struck a chord deep within Zaria, reverberating off the walls of her mind. Despite the resurgence of anxiety brought on by the encounter, she could either allow these feelings to dictate her journey or use them as fuel. The latter ignited a fierce determination, one she hadn't fully tapped into yet. She realized that she needed to confront more than just Elena's taunts. She had to face her inner critic, the voice reminding her of past failures, of risk, of all the reasons she shouldn't follow her dreams. "I want to perform again," Zaria stated, a powerful wave of clarity washing over her. This time focusing on my own unique sound. What if she embraced vulnerability instead of shying away from it? What if every encounter, every doubt, became a stepping stone for creating her own identity? Her grandmother's encouraging smile urged her forward, but Zaria knew the path might not be easy. To fully embrace her passion meant confronting past failures and rising above them. As the blends of her family's dreams intertwined with her own, she felt propelled toward a bold choice, one that would force her to dismantle the shadows of the past. "Let us work on a new piece together," Zaria proposed, excitement mingling with anxiety. "Something that reflects both our journeys." Her grandmother nodded, pride illuminating her face, as Zaria recognized this moment as a pivotal juncture, a commitment to a deeper exploration of herself. But as they walked back into the frenetic environment, Zaria's pulse quickened. The shadows of her past lurked in every corner, catching glimpses of her renewed determination. Each step felt charged with the possibility of confrontation, not just from outside forces but from within herself. The realization struck her chasing her dreams meant opening herself up to the fears she thought long buried. Could she truly face those fears and emerge unscathed? As Zaria prepared to step back into the spotlight, something deep within moved, an understanding that her greatest adversary may not be the external shadows but the darkness she battled inside. What awaited her on stage could bridge those internal divides, or expose her vulnerabilities in a way she could never have anticipated. A new melody beckoned, one that could reshape everything she thought she knew about herself. The stage loomed ahead, a vast expanse of black polished wood that gleamed under the bright lights, reflecting Zaria's tangled thoughts. Each step felt monumental, and as she stood at the edge, she took a moment, forcing herself to breathe and shake off the echoes of Elena's words. They threatened to claw their way back to the forefront of her mind, but she refused to give them that power. Instead, she focused on the music, on her grandmother's unwavering belief, on the promise she had made to find her sound. Seated at the piano, Zaria glanced around as anticipation crackled in the air. Familiar faces were mixed with new ones, and each gaze felt like an anchor, both reassuring and intimidating. As her fingers hovered above the keys, doubt crept in, but instead of succumbing, she conjured the memory of the moment she decided to fully embrace her passion. Performing again wasn't just a return, it was a declaration of intent, a rebellion against every voice that whispered she wasn't enough. As she struck the first note, a rush of confidence surged through her. Each note cascaded, weaving stories she had long carried inside. Still, beneath the flowing melody, her mind wrestled with shadows that whispered reminders of past failures, a flat note here, a misjudgment there. Would they return to haunt her as she played? She closed her eyes, letting the music envelop her, drowning out the cacophony of self-doubt. The audience faded, and the stage transformed into an intimate space between her and the instrument, where vulnerability became strength. Zaria unleashed the emotions she had kept bottled up, pouring them into the piece, a mixture of joy, longing, and the bittersweet taste of memories. Midway through her performance, she felt the atmosphere shift, palpable and electrifying. She could almost touch the understanding resonating among the listeners. They weren't just observers. They were drawn into her world, experiencing her story, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a profound connection, not just with them, but with herself. It was then that an unexpected thing happened. The internal voice that had haunted her, the critic that bathed her in doubt, suddenly quieted. Zaria recognized it wasn't simply about proving Elena wrong, nor was it about fulfilling some ideal that had been imposed upon her. It was about expressing the truest version of herself. As the last note hung in the air, the silence that followed felt both surreal and beautiful. A ripple of applause erupted, breaking the spell, and Zaria opened her eyes to see her grandmother beaming with pride. In that moment, Zaria realized she had crossed an invisible threshold. The shadows didn't disappear, but they diminished, looking smaller against the bright light of her newfound confidence. She understood that this journey was not just about music, it was a reclamation of her narrative. Each performance etched a new chapter, one where she decided what her story would be, which sparked a deeper longing within her to expand this journey. She wanted to explore her craft further, to continually grow and challenge herself, to dive deeper into the complexities of her art. In the aftermath of the applause, a conversation began to form in her mind. She envisioned reaching out to mentors, exploring different styles, possibly collaborating with other musicians. There were depths she had yet to explore. Yet, as exhilaration pulsed through her, the shadow of Elena returned, shadowy and insistent. Had Elena watched tonight? Would she crop up again, fanning old flames of insecurity and competition? Zaria needed to acknowledge that this conflict within her was only just beginning. The stakes were higher now that she had touched the edge of her passions. Standing at the intersection of fear and potential, Zaria felt a determined pulse drum beneath her skin. She was done playing it safe, she was ready to dive headfirst into the unpredictable waters of ambition and self-discovery. But the question loomed large: how far would she go to fully embrace her evolving identity as an artist? As Zaria took a deep breath, savoring the triumph of the moment, she knew she needed to confront more than just the external adversaries. The time had come to face her own limitations, to delve into the unknown depths of her capabilities. What awaited her beneath those layers? The journey had just begun, and her greatest performance might be yet to come. The exhilaration of the performance pulsed through Zaria's veins long after the applause had faded. She stepped off the stage, her heart still racing, but her mind was turbulent. The echo of her triumph felt thrilling yet disorienting, provoking a question that pushed against the walls of her consciousness: what next? The spotlight had illuminated her self-worth for the first time, but it also cast a harsh glare on her past, a past marked by doubt, frustration, and the fierce specter of Elena. A voice whispered insistently in her mind, taunting her to slip back into old habits. What if she didn't live up to this moment? What if the critic within her clawed its way back, relentless in its pursuit? In the days that followed, a new rhythm settled into Zaria's life. The applause still echoed, but it propelled her beyond routine and into determination. She began to seek out opportunities to collaborate with other musicians, eager to learn and grow. The more she immersed herself in the vibrant community around her, the more she felt the stirrings of creativity transform into a driving force. Conversations came alive around her, illuminating her perspective. She found herself drawn to a local jazz band whose members often filled the air with improvisation. Their spontaneity fascinated her. Could she learn to let go of structured perfection and embrace the unpredictable? It felt both thrilling and terrifying. Zaria arranged to meet the band for a late-night jam session, and as she entered the intimate space, the smell of coffee mingling with the sound of laughter put her at ease. Each musician held a unique story, and as they played, their individual expressions melded into something wholly new. In this setting, she started to grasp the beauty of collaboration as synergy. The music flowed, stretching her in ways she hadn't anticipated. However, with each new note she played, the specter of Elena returned. Could she sustain this newfound connection? What if they realized she wasn't as talented as they thought? Those thoughts threatened to sour her joy, but Zaria battled against them. Each time she felt the edges of doubt sharpen, she would dig deeper, urging herself to rise above the noise. In moments of quiet reflection, she confronted her apprehensions, jotting down her thoughts with urgency. Why was she so afraid of judgment? What would happen if she simply embraced her potential, flaws and all? This introspection revealed something remarkable: her fear of inadequacy wasn't just about music, it permeated her entire being. She realized it stemmed from a need for validation that she had sought externally, particularly from figures like Elena. Zaria was tired of that chase. Determined to flip the script, she crafted a manifest of aspirations. Not just as a musician, but as an artist who was willing to confront vulnerabilities. She dreamed of writing her own compositions and sharing her journey through music, transforming her narrative into something powerful and beautifully authentic. As the jam sessions continued, she dared to include her own pieces, gradually shedding the shackles of perfectionism. Each time she took a risk, she felt herself bloom a little more, but beneath her burgeoning confidence lay an unsettling question. Was she truly ready to face Elena again? What would happen when their paths crossed after this period of growth? The night at the studio was electric, filled with laughter and shared ingenuity. But as Zaria returned home, she felt the weight of her aspirations colliding with the shadow of her past. A confrontation loomed, one she neither could delay nor ignore. The time had come to reclaim her story from Elena, to reveal not just the artist she had become, but the woman she was meant to be. With the dawn of a new day approaching, Zaria understood that the moment of reckoning was inevitable. Would she rise to the challenge, or would the past threaten to drag her back into obscurity? The urgency of decision pressed against her, demanding an answer. The sun peeked through the curtains, painting stripes of light across Zaria's bedroom, an unwelcome reminder of the day to come. With the confrontation with Elena looming ahead, each ray felt like a countdown, a teasing whisper urging her to prepare. As she sat on the edge of her bed, she weighed her morning choices carefully, each one steeped in significance. She had a new piece she wanted to play at the jam session that night, one filled with the raw emotion of her recent revelations. The notes fluttered around in her mind, filling spaces with potential. But even as excitement bubbled within her, an anchor of doubt pulled her back. What if her music wasn't good enough? What if it was just another pursuit destined to fizzle out like the hopes of so many before? Discomfort settled like a stone in her stomach, a palpable reminder of her ongoing internal struggle. Zaria took a deep breath and resolved to face the day with intention. She reached for her journal, pen poised, and started to write. I am a creator. I allow myself to fail and learn from it. Each word became armor against the insecurities that threatened to resurface. She wrote about her aspirations, and that opened a door to a flood of emotions. This moment, filled with purpose, was a testament to her growth. After breakfast, Zaria took to her piano. The keys felt warm under her fingers, as if they were eager to embrace her newfound sense of self. She began to play a melody inspired by the spontaneous jam sessions, letting improvisation guide her. The music flowed through her, building and collapsing in waves, and in that moment, she felt like a vessel for something greater. But the specter of Elena loomed large, clawing at the edges of her consciousness. Zaria's heart raced as memories of past interactions flooded her mind, sharp critiques, dismissive comments, a definitive sense of inadequacy. They stung like tiny needles, reminding her of the vulnerability that came with artistry. She pressed her fingers down harder on the keys, channeling her agitation into the music. The intensity grew, an evolution from mere notes into a coherent expression of her journey. Yet, in the crescendo, a nagging thought, terrifying in its clarity, emerged. Was she merely recreating musical experiences from her past, instead of truly innovating? This epiphany forced her to pause. Creating was as much about vulnerability as it was about technique. She realized she hadn't yet faced the root of her fear, the possibility of Elena's judgment. In preparing to present her music to the world, she was really preparing to face her past and the judgments that came with it. I need to own my narrative, she murmured aloud, startling herself. This was a pivotal realization. Her past experiences didn't have to dictate her future limits. By confronting Elena, she reclaimed not only her story but her artistry, paving a path only she could tread. Zaria spent the remaining hours before the jam wrestling with herself, navigating the turmoil within. She could see the jam sessions and upcoming performances not merely as opportunities for display but as platforms for transformation. As evening approached and the shadows began to lengthen, Zaria grabbed her notes and a feeling of empowerment surged within her. She was ready. She had felt the thrill of her own sound. But one lingering question remained. What would it be like to confront Elena now that she had begun to carve her identity as an artist? The uncertainty agonized her, yet simultaneously electrified her spirit. Tonight was not just another jam session. It was a moment of truth and potential for confrontation, a stage set for both artistry and personal resolution. Would she emerge transformed, or would her past intertwine with her present, risking all she had worked so fiercely to create? Zaria arrived at the venue, her heartbeat echoing the pulse of anticipation reverberating through the air. The sight of her fellow musicians mingling, warming up, and sharing quick laughs only intensified the whirlwind inside her. Each face held a myriad of expectations, yet all she could see were reflections of the doubt she had carefully stowed away. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself in the moment, allowing the vivid sensations to heighten her awareness. Before stepping into the spotlight, she slipped into a corner, her journal cradled in her hands. Opening it, she observed the inked words, her declaration of identity, her journey of vulnerability. "I will embrace my music without fear," she whispered, reaffirming her commitment to herself. This was not just about the notes she'd play, it was about the urge to be unapologetically herself. As she stepped onto the stage, the dim lighting felt like a cocoon, wrapping her in a mix of anxiety and exhilaration. The crowd shifted, whispers faded, and eyes turned to her. She caught a glimpse of Elena at the back, her expression inscrutable. A mix of anger and fear surged within Zaria, but she quelled it. This was her moment, not just a performance. This was a declaration. With steady hands, she approached the piano, seating herself before the polished keys. The room grew eerily quiet, vibrating with the unspoken question, would she seize this opportunity or allow Elena's ghost to stifle her? Zaria's fingers danced across the keys, initiating the melody that had swirled in her mind for days. Each note blossomed like a flower breaking through concrete, powerful yet delicate. She infused her fears, her hopes, and her discoveries into the piece, the music becoming a translucent bridge to her soul. It was a restless harmony reflecting her struggle and triumph, a testament to her determination to redefine her narrative. As the melody surged into an energetic crescendo, she harvested inspiration from the room around her. The fellow musicians, the glances shared among them, the palpable energy cooked in unison, each element became part of her expression. This was no longer about seeking validation but rather a celebration of her existence and artistry. Suddenly, she heard a discordant note cut through her arrangement. She faltered momentarily, anxiety clawing at her throat. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught Elena leaning against the wall, shaking her head in disapproval. At that instant, the internal battle waged anew. Would she let Elena's harsh judgments creep into her resolve? Zaria halted, but time felt suspended. All the insecurities, every critique she had received, every moment of feeling lesser than, surfaced like ghosts demanding to be acknowledged. She had faced these emotions in solitude, but now, under the glaring lights, they felt like shadows threatening to engulf her once more. Stop, Zaria thought fiercely, digging deep within her conviction. This could not be the end. She flicked her gaze back to the keys, racing thoughts swirling, and declared internally, I will not let her define my narrative. Channeling her frustration and clarity, she resumed her piece, solidifying each note with newfound fury. The music transformed into a dialogue, a confrontation of self rather than an audience's judgment. Her body swayed, the sounds coiling around her, no longer rules or boundaries, just unfiltered expression. The climactic finale burst forth, an explosion of sound that encapsulated her truth. She felt liberated, the weight of the past lifting, replaced by an electric fervor surging through her veins. As the final note lingered in the air, the room erupted into applause, a tidal wave of acknowledgement spiraling in her direction. Zaria closed her eyes momentarily, allowing exhilaration and disbelief to wash over her. But before she could internalize the moment entirely, she glimpsed Elena's face again. This time there was no judgment, only an expression of something unmistakably akin to respect. And therein lay her revelation: acceptance, both from others and herself, was not a destination but a constant journey. Zaria stood taller, heart racing, realizing this confrontation had shifted her perspective and her art. But what would happen next, as the initial exhilaration began to fade? The tension with Elena still pulsed, a raw nerve beneath the surface. Would she be able to address their conflict now that her identity as a musician blossomed? As questions loomed, Zaria's mind raced towards the possibilities of resolution, the intricate dance between artistry and personal truth awaiting her. Zaria stepped away from the piano, the aftershocks of her performance still tingling in her fingers. The applause washed over her like a warm tide, yet the lingering presence of Elena sparked a contrast with an achievement wrapped in uncertainty. She had conquered the moment on stage, but unearthing her truth was only the beginning of a longer struggle. With each step back into the crowd, she felt the weight of expectations return. The bright applause faded into muffled conversations, and the warmth of recognition gave way to an intrusive chill. Zaria glanced around, searching for a safe space, a refuge where she could regain a sense of stability. Instead, she found herself face to face with Elena, who had pushed through the audience, her expression telling a story Zaria couldn't decipher. "I didn't expect you to play like that," Elena said, her voice a blend of surprise and restraint, similarly caught on the precipice of unspoken words. A knot twisted in Zaria's stomach. "What do you mean?" she replied, unsure if this was a compliment or a veiled insult. "Just there was emotion in what you did." Elena paused, hesitation coloring her features. "I didn't think you had it in you." Every instinct urged Zaria to bind her heart behind walls of defiance. It would be easy, a repetitive cycle of distrust, yet the applause from the stage still vibrated in her ears, urging her to embrace the complexity of this moment. "I guess you underestimated me," Zaria replied, her tone sharper than intended. Beneath the surface bravado, however, an inkling of curiosity began to emerge. Elena's eyes met hers, a flicker of acknowledgement igniting. "It's not that I underestimated you," she said, a transparent thread of vulnerability now weaving into her words. "I've seen you hide." The accusation hung heavy in the air, a memory painted in hues of frustration and avoidance. But rather than retreat, Zaria leaned into it. "And I've seen you judge." Immediate silence fell between them, a mutual recognition of the traumas both carried, skillfully tucked behind their personas. Zaria's heart raced with the space where anger had lived. Trust was a watchful pathway fraught with obstacles, yet here stood an enticing opportunity for evolution. "I've always pushed you because I saw something special," Elena continued, her voice steady but hesitant. "Maybe I didn't know how to nurture it." Zaria wrestled with this newfound light in their conversation. Could there be a way to reconcile their different approaches to artistry? The complexity of their relationship became ripe for exploration, a tension that could easily transform into understanding. "Maybe you're right," Zaria offered cautiously, her personal struggles swirling within. "I've always felt less than perfect, less than valid. But music is where I find my voice." Elena's brow furrowed, an ally forming amidst the battle of emotions. "Then practice that voice. Use it. Let's work together." Zaria blinked. This moment was not just a challenge, it was an invitation. Wandering back through memories of harsh criticisms and stifling expectations, she understood this was an opportunity to reclaim her narrative. "Work together." The words rolled off her tongue with unexpected relief. "You mean, beyond just competing?" Elena gestured towards a corner of the venue filled with musical scores and instruments, a mini sanctuary for aspiring musicians. "We can learn from each other. You have talent I could never touch, my discipline could help you sharpen your craft." The unseen possibilities unfolded before Zaria. Mirroring resolve ebbed and flowed at the edges of her consciousness. This potential collaboration held the promise of transformation, a merging of strengths and weaknesses that could bring about profound growth. However, the fear of repeating past mistakes flickered ominously in her mind. Yet, what if this was different? What if she allowed herself to explore this partnership, to face the uncertainties of collaboration head-on? "I'll think about it," she breathed, aware that the giant chasm of competition could morph into a bridge of support. As Zaria walked away, the tension dissolved into a swirl of optimism, yet uncertainty clung to her. How could she navigate the complexities of their budding partnership while remaining true to herself? The answers were tantalizingly elusive, but Zaria could feel transformation rippling just beneath the surface. Could she unravel the layers of doubt and assess her identity alongside someone she once viewed as an opponent? This dance was only beginning, and the next step felt like a cliff. What awaited her in the corners of collaboration, and could the journey towards resolution lead to a deeply buried shared truth? The moment of exploration drew closer, where vulnerability and creativity intertwined in an intriguing blend of possibility. Zaria awoke the next morning with an unmistakable clarity that had taken root. The events of the previous night surged in her mind, the adrenaline of the performance, the pulse of applause, and the unexpected conversation with Elena. As she prepared for the day, she recognized that this newfound momentum called for purpose. It beckoned her to embrace the transformative potential embedded in their dialogue. She sat again at her grandmother's piano, fingers lightly resting on the keys, thoughts swirling as melodies danced just beyond her grasp. Zaria began to play the new piece that had emerged from the depths of her soul, a tribute not just to her struggles, but also to the bridge she was cautiously constructing with Elena. Each note resonated with layers of vulnerability, echoing her resolve to shape her narrative anew. Days turned into weeks as she navigated her collaboration with Elena. They rehearsed often, merging their artistic visions into compositions that blended their unique styles. Zaria brought her improvisational spirit while Elena grounded their work in structured discipline. Together, they breathed new life into their shared passion for music, discovering a camaraderie navigating between harmony and tension. The fusion of their talents birthed something exhilarating, a fresh sound that was uniquely theirs. As Zaria honed her skills, she felt herself growing, not just as a musician, but as an artist with a firm sense of identity. Each note played alongside Elena became a testament to boundaries redrawn, insecurities faced, and fears conquered. Recognition began to surface within their local music community, transforming into opportunities for gigs and performances. The more they played together, the more Zaria understood that art was not a battleground but a shared sanctuary, a place for authenticity and exploration free from judgments. The voice of Elena no longer nagged at her insecurities, but instead infused her with strength. She began to see it as encouragement rather than competition. Eventually, they decided to perform a joint piece at an upcoming venue known for showcasing local talent. The air buzzed with excitement, but anxiety mingled beneath. This was at a moment to step into the spotlight, not just as Zaria, the blind black girl who had fought against societal constraints, but as a collaborative force standing beside Elena. The fear of past judgment still resided, but she now wielded it like a shield, a reminder of how far she had come. On the night of the performance, Zaria felt a powerful mix of emotions surge through her. The energy of the venue pulsed around her, the crowd eagerly anticipated what these two unlikely partners would deliver. Standing backstage, she glanced at Elena, who wore a determined expression. They were about to unveil their art as partners, not adversaries. As they took the stage, Zaria's heart raced, yet her resolve solidified. The piano glistened under the stage lights, each key waiting for their story to unfold. With practiced ease, they began to play, their combined talents weaving a tapestry of sound that resonated deep within the audience. Zaria poured everything into their performance, each note reflecting the journeys they had traveled to reach this moment, a blend of resilience, empowerment, and the newfound embrace of collaboration. The applause that erupted at the end echoed not just the appreciation of their music but also the acknowledgement of their personal transformations. Afterward, their performance was followed by heartfelt congratulations from the audience, and an unparalleled sense of fulfillment surged through Zaria. For the first time, she didn't feel the weight of labels or scrutiny, she simply existed in the power of her artistry. The transformation was ignited. She was Zaria, a musician who had conquered her fears and embraced her path alongside an unexpected ally. Walking off stage, Zaria turned to Elena, spontaneity radiating through them both. "We needed to meet at this intersection," she said, smiling genuinely. "Collaborating changed everything." Elena's eyes sparkled with acceptance and enthusiasm. "I never expected this journey, but you've taught me to embrace new sides of artistry. What's next for us? Zaria grinned, the potential stretching infinitely before her. Let us keep exploring. There are so many stories yet to tell through music. The journey had transformed them both, wrapping them in a shared understanding that artistry thrived in vulnerability and collaboration beyond confines of fear. Zaria felt like she had finally emerged not just as a pianist whose blindness defined her but as an authentic artist ready to craft her narrative without limitations. She breathed deep, ready for the next chapter that awaited them. The realm of possibilities lay ahead, growing alongside her ambition. Zaria had achieved what she once thought unimaginable. She had conquered her fears, cultivated a bond forged in shared aspirations, and unlocked an identity that resonated with truth. Now, it was time to compose her legacy, note by note, embracing the boundless courage that stirred within, painting her journey in bold strokes of sound. And thus, she knew, they were just getting started. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share this journey. Comment your reactions and theories about Zaria's transformative adventure. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion. Let us unlock more stories of personal overcoming. Don't wait even one more second to show your support for the channel.